Check, check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go.
Hey folks, how's it going? Sorry, I'm having some technical difficulties here, but we're getting it figured out here. This is Ballsy Uncut, and we're back for this hump day this Wednesday, and we got a great show lined up for you. It is Wednesday, so it's Where Are They Now Wednesday, and we're going to run into and talk to Hockey Hall of Famer Jeremy Roenick. JR will join us here. He's coming to Weyburn on October the 24th. I have the great pleasure of being the host of that night. It's a fundraising dinner for the Red Wings. I'll be on the stage with the great coach, Dwight McMillan, in a hot stove, and then we'll also have Jeremy Roenick in a hot stove situation as well. Great fundraiser for the team. SJHL getting going. Weyburn off to an 0-2 start, but talked to Cody Mapes, the head coach today and general manager. He's hoping to get the ship righted very soon. Like I said, that dinner is October 24th. If you want tickets, you can hit them up, Weyburn Red Wings, on social media, and they've got all the details there. So we'll talk to Roenick. We're going to talk to Nic Demski of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, getting set to take on the Edmonton Elks in the second half of that home-and-home series. And really, they could pretty well stick a fork in Edmonton's playoff chances, especially if the Riders come up with a victory over Ottawa. So we've got that to discuss. We're also going to discuss high school football because he's a referee of 20 plus years, I believe, and also the commissioner of the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. That would be Kyle McIntyre. He will join us. And we're also going to talk with the outgoing president of Football Canada and the general secretary of IFAF. That would be Jim Mullin. He'll join us from BC. Let's get into some football news. Jacob Brammer still practicing with the Riders, like he's back practicing after missing time with a hamstring injury. Was once again in there at right guard. Looks like he'll replace Nick Jones there, at least by what we see in practice. No Revis today. Brooks took his spot in the linebacking core. Anthony Lanier II is back practicing for the Riders, as he was yesterday too. And he's off the 6 games. So if you're a Rider fan, you're hoping to see him line up against the Red Blacks. AJ Ouellette has been doing indie drills off the field to the side, trying to get ready and catch the coach's eye and maybe get back in the lineup and live up to the expectations of that big paycheck and, you know, being a Grey Cup champ and everything coming into Saskatchewan. Still, by all accounts, been a great leader and a team ambassador, but obviously many Rider fans expected more. We have raised $1,700 to help pay off the fine of Miles Brown. Now, Brownie got some help from another fan out of Saskatoon. I forget the name, but they raised on GoFundMe about $2,000. I raised here on the show, Ballsy Uncut, just because people pay fees when they donate to or give money to GoFundMe for somebody. So I just was waiving those fees. So $1,710 was our total raised. And we're getting that money to Miles on Monday. That's the plan. He's going to join us tomorrow. So Miles Brown, we'll talk about that on the show, on Friday, not tomorrow. Tomorrow meaning our next show. How about Alex Singleton, the former Calgary Stampeder and Calgary Stampeder and he was a Philadelphia Eagle and now a Denver Bronco. He tore his ACL in the first quarter of their game at Tampa that they won and played the entire game, led the team in tackles, but found out after the game he had a torn ACL and he is gone for the year, is Alex Singleton. But what a warrior. These guys put their bodies through so much. McLeod Bethel Thompson gets the start for the Edmonton Elkamos in that game against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And, I have always been a Trey Ford guy. I think he's been jerked around a little bit by Edmonton, but I was actually kind of shocked. Now, I know Ford and McLeod Bethel Thompson had split time during that comeback of the turnaround of their season, but the previous 5 games before playing against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers when he didn't start, McLeod Bethel Thompson was 90 of 145, 62% completion percentage, 1,310 yards, 10 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and they had a 4-1 record while he was in the game. So I didn't understand why they benched him, but now he's back as the quarterback. And Trey Ford, who Jarius Jackson says was a little cavalier with the football, didn't have the consistent production they wanted. He is out. and McLeod Bethel Thompson is in for that game. We'll get to some picks a little later on that one. LA Chargers came to Vancouver, Van City, to get a closer look at UBC running back Isaiah Knight. Of course, when you have guys like Giovanni Manu go in the 4th round to Detroit, and Theo Benedette, who's been on this show, and a star of Hard Knocks, who's on the practice roster, when you have those guys get picked up by the Chicago Bears and, much ballyhooed from your program in one season, it takes a while to get things back on track. We're starting to see that from UBC, and then other guys get attention. So Isaiah Knight now getting looked at by the Los Angeles Chargers. I think even the Niners are interested, if I'm not mistaken. Speaking of the Chargers, Justin Herbert out of a walking boot. He, all the coach Jim Harbaugh would say is he's progressing. Didn't say anything more than that, whether he'd play Sunday against the Kansas City Chiefs. But the Chargers, who are generally made of glass year after year after year, and as you can see by the Chargers helmet on my shelf and the lightning bolt above the rider share there that I have on my wall, I would say that I can speak from experience. The Chargers are made of glass. So they'd be well off to just sit Herbert, sit Joe Alt, who has a sprained MCL, sit Rashawn Slater, who's got a strained pec muscle. So those are your 2 tackles, protecting a quarterback, the franchise, on a high ankle sprain, which is terrible to come back from. And then you've got the glass man, Joey Bosa, who's always hurt, tweaked a hip. All those guys should sit out and join Derwin James, who is out for playing hard, aggressive football. He was suspended 1 game for his hit on Pat Freiermuth for repeated penalties outside the rule. So John Runyon in the NFL said to him in a letter. So he has been suspended. So the Chargers going up against the Chiefs. Bet the farm on the Chiefs. But Jim Harbaugh will get his team to play hard. Brett Favre talking to a congressional hearing on basically being involved in, allegedly ripping off Mississippi with welfare funds to fund the gymnasium for his girl to play basketball at a university. But he said in the congressional hearing that he is battling Parkinson's disease. And you got to wonder if the concussions, he says he estimates he's had around 1,000 undiagnosed concussions, a lot of them obviously in his career. And he's had some that we know about. And you got to think that I don't play a doctor. I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on a podcast, but I would think repeated head trauma has something to do with that. It's nice to see everybody else is coming out. Actually, you know what? I'm going to save that for later. I'm going to save some stuff to talk about later, except this. Talk more football, give you some CFL picks, except this. The Padres. My Padres clinched a playoff spot yesterday, and that doesn't happen every year. They almost got to the World Series in 2022, had a payroll that was ballooning and didn't do anything last year, collapsed in the second half of the season, shed their payroll, and now they're just 2 games back of the Dodgers for the NL West crown with 5 games to go. But they clinched a playoff spot, at least a wild card berth, with a game-ending triple play. Machado, backhand, touches his base to second baseman Cronenworth, who throws it over to first baseman. I believe it was Arise playing first base, and the Padres get a little champagne shower in the dressing room at Chavez Ravine, beating the Dodgers. And at the beginning of the season, if anyone had told you, anyone associated with the Padres, you told them that they'd be the center of discussion in the final week of the season, they'd be thrilled. But it has nothing to do with Skeens on a rookie of the year quest and historic pitching pace. It has nothing to do with being in the race for a playoff spot. This team has been a laughingstock in baseball the last few years, and it continues. The Pirates designated former Blue Jay first baseman Rowdy Tellez and a relief pitcher in blowouts for assignments. Tellez was just 4 at-bats, 4 plate appearances shy of earning $200,000. And of course, and rightfully so, that decision has garnered a lot of criticism across baseball and a lot of media platforms. It's a joke. The Pirates have the second lowest payroll in baseball, only leading the pathetic Oakland, soon to be Las Vegas Athletics. Okay? They're continually pinching pennies, and you can't win at anything, whether it's podcasting, media, business, sports, anything. You can't win without spending money. You got to spend money eventually to make money. Okay? And I'm finding that out as a business owner. So that's why when guys like Darian Durant signs a bonus with the Blue Bombers and then decides, you know what? No, I'm not playing. And then gets chastised for it. When he does that, or T. Higgins, who's the receiver for the Bengals and is playing on a franchise contract, which I don't know, is around $12 million as a receiver. That's not chump change, but he wants to look at the long term and he wants a long-term deal. But the Bengals are notoriously the cheapest team in the NFL. They're right in the same category as the Pirates and those type of teams that never win championships. I know the Pirates did way back in the day, but I'm talking since free agency. So when T. Higgins pulls up and says, you know what, I don't think I'm going to start the season. I tweaked a hammy and didn't play until week 3. I have no problem with that. It's called a business decision. Teams make it. Why can't players make it? Just absolutely gross on the Pirates' behalf, doing a dirty to Rowdy Tellez. And that Netflix series on Vince McMahon is out today. It's a 6-part series. Vince yesterday put out a statement kind of diminishing it. Sorry, I got a fly or a bug in here. Kind of diminishing it, saying he's not characterized in the correct light and they edited, creative editing makes him look bad and whatever. It's not word for word, but that's basically the Cole's Notes version. Say this about Vince McMahon. Wrestling as we know it, as we knew it, as it will go forward, it's all because of Vince McMahon. He created a lot of these characters. Hogan, Rock, the list goes on. Bret the Hitman Hart, all of it. And so for people to throw dirt on him is wrong. Like in that sense, he created a lot of people's livelihoods and gave them a great life. So you can never diminish that. Is he a great dude? By all accounts, no. But there's a lot of shady dudes in wrestling. You're not living in a sane world there, okay? You have an alter ego. You got to live that alter ego. I think Undertaker, from all accounts, is a good dude. But he literally for years walked around in public dressed like the Undertaker when they were trying to protect the fakeness of wrestling, so to speak, the entertainment side of wrestling. So you're never living as yourself, kind of like an actor. You're I don't know if you're Denzel Washington at all. One time you're going for the role of Equalizer. The next time you're trying to be the pilot in the pilot movie. So you're always thinking about being a different guy. But so Vince McMahon, probably not a good dude. And Vince, they're not going to make it. It's not going to be a Mr. Rogers special. Okay. So you knew what you were getting into when you did this thing. At least I hope you did. But yeah, I'm going to watch it for sure. Can't wait. Hey, this show is brought to you by Ward Tire Craft. Go check out Michael Barth and the gang in Regina, 101 Dudney Avenue. They got a store in Saskatoon. Tell them Ballsy sent you. Get 10% off your tire and braking needs. The District Brewing Gang, Tim Young and the gang, thanks for sponsoring this podcast on my billboard, the early part of the season, the Our Balls Are Bigger billboard, and sponsoring this show and the Our Balls Are Bigger post-game show. You can go get their mango seltzer and their passion fruit lime seltzer, super squeeze seltzers. They are in orange and purple cans respectively. You can go right to District Brewing and do it, or you can go to any liquor store. And District Brewing still has that patio open today. It's a sunny, warm, windy day. You can get a beer after work on the patio or inside. They got a place to sit as well, right in the heart of Regina on 6th, just down from Nicky's Cafe and right by my gym on Osler, the Brick House, which, by the way, Brick House got some awesome cardio equipment, man. That's the cleanest, most progressive gym in Saskatchewan. For sure, Regina. What a great gym. Go check out Justin Chantel and the gang. They do a great job cleaning. Sarah, she is cleaning, picking up weights. You never have to worry about stubbing your toe on an errant weight or dumbbell or anything like that. Go check them out too. Also want to give a shout out to Gerhard Studios, Nicole and Dean. They do great work. We're going to have a great cup party down at their studio, and we'll have some special invites, and you can come down there and maybe win a prize or two as well. So yeah, got to thank those sponsors here. And we'll get into more sponsor mentions in a bit as this show is slowly but surely growing. All right, former Rider draft pick Nic Demski, man. I didn't like how they used you when you were here. That disappointed me when you were in Saskatchewan because I thought they could have used you better, and now you've gone on to show them that they should have used you better.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of the reason why I got out of there, honestly. I mean, I love being in Saskatchewan, like just the fan base and everything, and obviously the new stadium was a nice little touch too. But yeah, I mean, Winnipeg came, and obviously being my hometown was a nice little cherry on top, and they had a plan for me, and it sounded good, and I haven't looked back since. So
I've never done drugs, so I don't know what it feels like to be on drugs, but just talk about the natural drug that is being a hometown kid, having that much success playing in that stadium, because it is loud, it is fun.
Oh, for sure. I mean, yeah, it's amazing. I mean, in 2017, Winnipeg, obviously, I think they made the playoffs. 2018, when I got there, it was like, the team was like on the rise, and just I feel like every year we've kind of gotten better, and just what we've been able to do and the success that we've had these last couple of years. I mean, it's amazing being from Winnipeg and just knowing people around the community and how hyped up they get about our success, and just how proud they are, and Winnipeg fans, they're very loving of the game, very emotional, and they ride the wave too. So I mean, it's amazing to be here and kind of being in the position that I am on this team. I mean, it's definitely a great feeling to be a part of this.
You truly are a lucky man, because in Saskatchewan, you got to see what it's like to be in a fishbowl when the team's not as successful, right? When they're not winning championships, you kind of want to slink away to the grocery store at 9 o'clock before it closes. Now you're like the king of Kensington, right? You can go Portage in Maine, you can go anywhere. Hey, there's Demski when you guys are winning, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I live in a small community here. And I mean, a lot of people kind of see the same familiar faces. So, you kind of make those connections, and, you definitely get a lot of waves and a lot of people saying what's up to you. But yeah, I mean, definitely it was funny in Regina. I mean, I'm sure, you'd step out of the house to go do an errand real quick, whether it's the grocery market or, go get some clothes or whatever. And you always, get a little tap on the back, people saying what's up and whatnot. And, obviously you love it, but, when the team's not doing so great, I mean, sometimes, they're always nice, but, sometimes they have some words for you. So,
yeah. So how have you guys been able to get this thing back on the rails this year? Didn't start off so well, lots of injuries, but you're right back where we're used to seeing the Bombers first place. How have you guys been able to do that?
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I think it all came down to attention to detail. I mean, we're doing a lot of good things at the start of the year, but just weren't finishing. And, sometimes we're slow to start the game, or else we're slow to start the half. And, I think now we're kind of playing all four quarters. I mean, we can still do better jobs, on all realms of this, of the game, all three phases. But at the end of the day, we're really coming together as a team. And, obviously there's a lot of, positive turnover on our team this year, but, we had a lot of young guys kind of step in, and some big time injuries that happened early on in the season. So, just kind of getting everybody on the same page, and getting, the communication part of it down, and making sure everybody, is bought in the appropriate way. And, I think we've been doing a good job of just kind of tackling all the phases now.
Brothers love each other, but they like to kid each other, okay? And your brother's in a locker room. I saw when Brady Oliveira scored his 2 touchdowns. By the way, his first 2 touchdowns of the season, it looked like the whole stadium was lifted off his shoulders. He's having a great time. But were you guys kind of bugging him? Like, hey, Brady, what's going on? You haven't scored a touchdown yet. The season's almost done.
Yeah, a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. We're giving him a little bit of a hard time, but you know what, Brady's a good sport. He knows what he does on the field, and he has pretty thick skin. You can't really get to him too much, but that's kind of what the whole chicken dance is about. Get in that chicken box, and we all celebrate with him, and he was loving it. He was having a good time, so it's all in good fun.
One of my favorite plays that I've watched you as a Bomber, I was calling the game Riders, Blue Bombers, couple of Labor Day classics ago, where you're looking over here, but then you had to turn around and make the catch over the other shoulder. Moncrief's covering you, went in for a touchdown. So we're used to spectacular plays from Nic Demski, one-handed catches. Would I be right? Like, don't take this the wrong way, but I looked at your stats before we did this interview. I'm like 774 yards. Those are the quietest 700 and some yards I can remember. You're closing in on a 1,000-yard season, and in my mind, I'm like, Demski's kind of had an off year. Can you describe the year for me from your standpoint?
Yeah, you know what? I think I think I've been playing pretty consistent, but at the start of the year, I was given some big chances, and it just wasn't working my way. A lot of stuff wasn't working our way at the start of this year, so. Yeah, it definitely is a quiet year. I don't think I've had like any like really crazy explosion plays or any big plays, but you know what? I'm doing a lot of the little things good, and I'm just helping the team. Whatever they need from me, I'm going to go out there and do it. We have a lot of young receivers who kind of are filling in. Especially with Dalton going down at the beginning of the year. Kenny went down. Now
Yep.
Wolatarski's down. So I'm just trying to be just a wise man in the locker room, and just do my part, do my role, and just make sure the glue's all sticking correctly in the receiving room.
Well, the best ability is availability, right? Have you learned how to take care of your body and pace yourself as the season goes along? Because money time is coming up here. We're in money time for the playoffs and the Grey Cup, right?
For sure. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. How can you last all 18 games? And you know what? I think I only played 16 of them last year. But you know what? At the end of the day, it's funny because everybody kind of has individual goals, and honestly, my goal, obviously as a team, win a Grey Cup, but individually is play all 18 games. And I tried to do that last year. Last year, I had the birth of my daughter, so I missed one game there, and then I had a little tweak at the end of the year as well. So this year is something big on my plate is play every game and stay healthy and be productive.
You're the best guy to ask us. We just had our best player, the Riders' best player, Roland Milligan, sit out a game for the birth of his fourth child, okay? And he was gone. And that's got to be tough for an athlete, right? Or is it tough to give up? Because it's a team, it's a brethren. We need you. We need to win. You're a big player. But you got your wife over here delivering your first child. Probably not much of a decision, but still in the back of your mind, there's like, oh, I'm kind of letting down my team.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know what? It's funny. We have such a good locker room, and I'm sure anybody all across the league would understand the birth of a child. So, they're all super supportive of it. Me, being the competitor I am, and a guy that tries to do everything that I possibly can. I was waiting last minute. We actually had a doctor's appointment that morning of travel day. So Osh was waiting to hear, how the doctor's appointment went. Kind of see where the doctor thinks we're at in terms of birth. And, her water broke actually that morning. So I was like, okay, well, if that's not a sign, I don't know what is. So, went to the hospital, told the coaches and told everybody, what's going down. And they're all completely understanding, but, you're definitely feeling a little bit anxious watching the game, just making sure that, everybody's good out there. Obviously I've been, this is my 6th year with this team, or 7th year. So, obviously I'm a vet and a leader. So, I always just want to make sure things are going smooth, and they won that game. So obviously things were going smooth.
Baby's name is?
Rhea Demski.
Nice. And wife's name is?
Vanessa.
And you got a dog too, right?
We have 2. So we have Rue, who's been with us for 5 years, and we have Pax, and he was a rescue. We got him over the off season. So he's 11 months old, or about to be 11 months old. Sorry.
So did Oliveira set you up with that dog? Cause he's big into rescuing dogs.
He did. Yeah. So he set us up with the rescue, and then he set us up with the rescue, and my girl, Van, she saw on the Instagram page, like a new litter that they just brought in. She's like, okay, because we just had our daughter, and we weren't really sure if we wanted to get a new puppy right now. Yeah. And we went over to the house, checked out the litter, and we're like, you know what? If we're gonna do it, we might as well do it now. He's a good puppy, and honestly, he's been great. He's definitely a little pest, but a pest in the best way. So, I'm thankful it worked out.
Awesome, man. Couple more quick questions for you here. Brian Doby was your coach at the Manitoba Bisons. It's his last season. They're off to a great start. Just your thoughts on Brian Doby and how maybe he and the staff helped you with your career.
Yeah, I mean, I love Doby. You know what? I don't have anything bad to say about him. I love him. I think that's why he's made so many connections, just because he is such a big people person. Like anytime anybody kind of crosses his way, you're going to hear a couple stories from him. You're going to have to reserve about 30 to an hour because this guy can talk his mouth off. But no, he's just an awesome man. He's a great motivator. I'm so proud of these Bisons for doing what they're doing, especially in his last year. And they're definitely going on a tear out there. So they're 4-0. So shout out to the Bisons, shout out to Doby, and even after retirement, I know he's a big family man. His daughter just got married, so I'm excited for him. What's at stake for the rest of his life coming up.
Okay, lastly, Nick, you said you're a competitor. Okay, so how are you a better dad today than when the baby was first born? Are you better at changing diapers? Are you better at burping? Do you challenge yourself?
Man, so it's funny. So my girl, she took some time off of work, obviously, and so now like every Monday she's kind of back at coaching gymnastics. So now it's up to the daddy duties right now to put her to bed. So that honestly it used to make me nervous. 'Cause I'm like, man, if I put her to bed and she wakes up, then I'm gonna have to deal with this. I'm gonna have to go back up there. But
Yeah.
honestly, that's probably what I've gotten good at is just kind of rocking her to sleep.
Yeah.
Let her have some daddy cuddles and let her go down to sleep peacefully. So, I pride myself upon that.
You know what's funny? Like when I used to travel on the roads with team, people like, "Oh, you're probably gonna go out. Like you're in Vancouver, you're in Montreal, and you might have done that younger. You're probably happy just to get into a bed now, have remote control, and just do nothing."
Man, that's the first thing I go into that bed, and well, yeah, we'll literally land somewhere at like 2:00 p.m. I'll get into that bed and probably just lay there with the blanket over top, just have like a big bed, sprawl out, watch TV for about 2-3 hours, then drag myself out of it, go to dinner, go to Shoppers Drug Mart to get like some waters and some snacks for the night, and then right back into that bed.
Yeah, and you probably now, are you counting your per diem so you can save for diapers? Like, hey, I could get this per diem, and if I only buy a couple, if I get a sub and some waters, I can have money for diapers later.
No, straight up, man. I make sure there's some cash leftovers for when I come back. But yeah, diapers, those are no joke. Diapers and wipes are no joke, man. We go through those like no tomorrow.
No joke. Hey, lastly, one football question, and then we'll let you go. When I watch Edmonton, they're very athletic. Like, take the record aside, they've got a really athletic defense. Those linebackers are no joke. Just talk about facing them coming up here again.
Yeah, no, they're a great team. Honestly, they're really good. I don't think their record dictates of the type of talent that they put out on the field. So, they're good. Their offense can be an explosive offense at any point. They run the ball really good, and then defensively, they just run to the ball really well. Their DBs understand, leverage and all that stuff. They know what they want to take away from us, and their front seven can play some football too. So, kudos to our linemen. We did a great job, kind of pushing them around, but I know that they're going to come back out with a vengeance, and they're going to come out and play some good football. I mean, I really respect that team. They're well coached as well. So, we'll see what's in store for this weekend.
Well, speaking of respect, I got all the respect for you, man. Always cheering you on. Don't care if you're a Bomber guy. I love watching you play, man. Best of luck here against the Elkamos, as I like to say, and the rest of the season. Thanks for your time, man.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, Jim Mullins here. You got to give me the straight goods. Were you pushed, or did you leave on your own with Football Canada?
I left on my own, and I'll tell you one of the reasons why I left. I'll tell you a couple of reasons why I left on my own. Number one reason is we've got the right leadership in place for this organization. Mm-hmm. Kevin McDonald has a quarter century with the CFL. I'm sure he wouldn't want me to put it in those numerical terms. But, 12 of those years he spent as a vice president of football operations there. And Peter Baxter, between spending 23 years, I believe, at Laurier and then years with the University of Toronto, distinguished athletic director, maybe one of the most respected in the country at the time of him retiring 2 years ago. He's a guy that understands the landscape when it comes to governance. He was former president of the OUA. Like, you can't get, and these guys both love football too, right? So you can't get people that are more well connected at two different levels, right? So you've got Kevin, who's connected into the CFL and has relationships in the NFL and some of the international world, and you've got Peter, who's connected into university and youth sports and educational institutions. That's a really good 1-2 punch, and I hope that the membership can listen to them and listen to their guidance and try to grow with it instead of go in the opposite direction. Only time will tell, right? The other part is I can't hold two offices. Like, you notice here, I've got my I'm wearing my Euro Puffy, my IFAB Euro Puffy.
I was like, is it that cold there already?
No. Actually, it is cooling off here. I was just outside. It is cooling off. outside of the practical, which I experienced at the World Junior Championships, where I was in a technical meeting with all of the nations, and a question came up about Football Canada, and the Football Canada delegation was there, and they looked up at me and they go, "Jim, you got the answer to this?" Jim had to give the answer. 5 minutes later, a question comes up about IFAF, and our IFAF representative looks at me and goes, "Jim, have you got the answer to this?" And that's untenable, right? You can't operate that way. You can't keep switching hats off and on, or you end up with hairlines like us.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So, you're just better looking.
There's also new governance rules coming in at IFAF that you can't hold two offices, and some of the work that's in front of me at IFAF is just absolutely thrilling. In terms of being the leader in reshaping what global tackle football is all about. That's going to be my portfolio there. And so how do we get, we've seen it with the U20s, with the World Junior Championships. How do we get the World Championships for both men and women back on the rails? What's the format? How do we do it? How is it economically viable? And how do we have continental playdowns? How do we introduce something like 6, 7, or 8-man football to smaller nations that can't afford to travel 11-man teams? When we look at like Australia, New Zealand, and Micronesia and Oceania in that area, there's American Samoa, there's Tonga, there's countries there that play football, but probably once or twice a year can only afford to play a 6 to 8 aside version of the game if they want to play internationally. What do we do in that space? So there's a number of pieces that we've been working on now for quite some time that we'll talk about when we get to Congress in Lausanne and at the IOC hall. And nothing against Saskatchewan, buddy, but if I'm traveling to a place that begins with S, I'd much rather travel to Switzerland than Saskatchewan on a regular basis. I'm sorry about that. Don't take it personally.
Hey, you mentioned You mentioned something there, and I want to get to what you're most proud of in your time at Football Canada. But I sense a little frustration in your voice when it comes to all the partners involved in Football Canada and still maybe not being on the same page. Would that be the big? You always talked about football in this country in silos. Have we got away from that, or are we still in that?
Well, I think a lot of the provincial organizations are in a kind of a silo of their own, and they've got some decisions to make on what they look like and what they focus on moving ahead with the sport. You can be in a silo, but you can't be on an island in this sport. I think even in Saskatchewan, where most of football goes through Football SAS, there's the South Saskatchewan Selects, right? They're private, they're operational. We'd be kidding ourselves right now if, at least on the elite side, if we didn't see that the future of football, because the future of so many sports like this, is private, and with high levels of investment into young athletes at that level. We haven't felt it in football as much in this country because it's already happening outside of our borders. You take a look at a guy like Lamar Goods, right? He's playing with Manitoba now, but he spent some time in the SEC. He left home in grade 9 from Fort McMurray to play in the academy system. Kids are leaving for academies at younger and younger ages. If you talk to people in the Ottawa area, they take a look at their 10 best athletes, and 9 of them, by the time they reach grade 11, have already left for an academy, right? And in some cases, those costs are covered. In some cases, parents are kind of taking a mortgage out on the future, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to make a determination of whether it's right or wrong. It just is, right? It exists. And Football North kind of has that going in Southern Ontario right now. When you look at the changing landscape, I'm not sure if members across the country are truly prepared for it. So we need, as a group and as a culture, to up our business game. We have a great opportunity now that flag's going into the Olympics to find a way to up our business game in terms of sponsorships and partnerships. And there have been some great conversations going on behind the scenes for about the last 6 to 8 months. The CFL has a renewed interest in grassroots football in terms of a bit of a shift in terms of their outlook on how they approach the game. I'm really excited about the possibilities that exist in the future with Kevin at the helm between them and the CFL and shaping something there. The NFL has been a great partner for Football Canada. You know, the largest sponsor that has been brought online in the 142-year history of the organization. So the encouraging stuff that I see around the amateur game are those partnerships. Is that private money, or those things that exist from outside of the tent, rather than some of the things that for about 12 years or so we're doing the same way in the same cycle, using the same money, and we need a new approach, because when we have declining numbers in coaches, when we have declining numbers in officials, when parents and young athletes think that they can't get the development that they need, right? So they go to other places, then everybody needs to take a look at what their business model is in this case and think, where are we investing our money? If we're just funding Canada Cups and tournaments for the top 1% of players, we're not making the investment into athletes. We're not making the investment in the coaches. We're not making the investment into officials. And eventually the sport dies on the vine if we don't make those investments. So that's one of the things. If you're talking about what I'm proud of, there are lots of things I'm proud of in terms of the time at Football Canada. One of the things is turning a battleship around so the future generation now of leaders can focus on, we've identified the targets, focus on those targets, and make inroads and investments on those targets.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate all the work you've done, man, and you're a steady hand. And like you said, you've sold me on the leadership and passing it over. Hey, I saw one of your tweets. Jim Mullin TV, I think, is the handle, right? Is that right?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
And you, my son's team, the Dinos, play in Manitoba.
Mm-hmm.
The Dinos won that game. That was a touchdown in the end zone. You could see it on the fourth angle. Yeah. The refs never came together to discuss it. They just waved. They waved the flag and they ran off the field into their little dungeon at McMahon Stadium, and that was it.
They had a plane to catch.
What's that?
They had a plane to catch.
Yeah. So here, when I was my son signed with the Dinos at the start, but he ended up going to UND. He's back in Calgary. Wants to get acclimatized. Hopefully, get drafted next year. But one of my reasons for doing that was not the coaches and not the players, not the actual teams. They care. They put in a lot of work. But I find the people above them kind of treat it slightly better than intramural sports, okay? And I was like, I don't want my son to bust his ass and then other people above him aren't as invested as he is. So that's why I sent him there. He's had a pleasant experience with the Dinos. But it's a long-winded thing here, but where I'm going with this is we have, and I watched FCS football, we have just as good of camera angles as FCS football. They have instant replay. Why couldn't we have instant replay just for touchdowns, scoring plays, and turnovers? Okay, I know you don't have a say in it, but my question is this knowledgeable football ball man. 8 games. These kids got screwed. They got screwed. That could cost them the playoffs. Why don't we have... I can tell you one thing for free, Jim. They don't have drone angles in FCS. There's no drone angles at the Alaris Center. We have it at McMahon Stadium. Like, that's what I'm getting at. It's like, well, you know, just wave the flag. Let's run off. No big deal. It's just somebody won, somebody lost.
Tune in to Crown Gridiron Nation on TSN on Thursday and Friday, and we'll have the answer for you. We actually had a detailed discussion about that.
Okay.
John Hodge was on from 3 Down Nation as a guest, and Gord Randall brought it up in our discussion around U Sports. And this is a piece now, at least maybe it's just a Canada West piece, because Canada West, out of all the 4 conferences, game in, game out, does a better job with broadcasts than the other 3 do. Maybe the beta for this is the next Canada West season, where they can have video review, based under the hood video review, right? Where going out on the feed is exactly what the official is seeing under the hood, right? It wouldn't be that much of a leap. It wouldn't be that much of an extra investment. The broadcast apparatus is already in place. It may not be perfect, but it will be good, and we know how perfect is the enemy of good, right? Right?
Right.
So in terms of being serious about, like you're talking FCS, Division II has it in a lot of places.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
In terms of being serious about the game and being taken seriously, this has got to be one of the next steps that is taken in game for what we do at U Sports,
100%.
because playoffs and professional outcomes depend on it.
Well, and I'm looking you with your nice puffy hoodie on there, IFAF. I watched the flag football, okay? I tuned in. I watched the flag football from Finland because Team Canada was mostly Husky guys, Nias, Hillis, all the guys, who did a pretty good job getting to the round of 8 or 16, I guess, and then lost in the round of 8. Or they were in 8 and couldn't get to the semifinal. But I was amazed. Like the coverage, you hit this game and you could get it. You get this, and there was replays, and there was stats, and I don't even get that in U Sports. Like that. That's what you say. Are we going to take this game seriously? Because if we want people to believe this is big time, and we want to, you talked about, with McDonald, and hopefully there's a relationship with the CFL. The reason why the NFL is so big is they build the stories in college. They build these guys up so that when they get to the NFL, you know who they are. We're never going to be the NFL. We're never going to be NCAA, but we should at least try to build stories like your show or like this podcast. Try to build up these characters and promote and actually care about the product.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And I'll tell you, you mentioned the NFL and you mentioned flag. I'm going to pivot here to where I got this puffy thing from.
Yeah.
I was at the World Flag Championships in Lahti, Finland at the end of August. And I managed to. I actually called the bronze medal games for both the men and women, and the gold medal games for both the men and the women from the big stadium. The level of belief that the NFL has in this, in terms of this being their global calling card for football, in terms of engagement, presence, getting athletes in from every continent around the world. They are fully bought into this. And just from our little corner, I was helping the local organizing committee plan the broadcast package, especially around the finals. About 2 months out, we brought in the NFL. So we had somebody from the NFL head office, and we had 2 producers that produced the NFL on Fox.
Wow.
To come in and produce those final games. That's how serious that these guys are taking this. So, when we needed to build stories up, we had that focus. When we needed the right camera angle, we brought in the cherry pickers. When we figured this thing out to make it look good. And I'm not sure if you had an opportunity to see the final day, because none of the Canadian teams were there on the final
I did watch
day.
briefly, yeah.
Yeah. I was really happy with the way the thing looked, and that's always one of the concerns with something like flag football as it's developing, especially when you put it against its tackle counterpart. Is how does this thing show, right? So bring it back to your U Sports point. That level of thought, that level of care, still has to go in to what we're doing at U Sports. There needs to be that level of focus of how do we make this thing show well? How can we present it? How can we up our game? One of the biggest minuses that I think works against U Sports in terms of, and it's a cultural thing, is that, you're dealing with Canadian universities that have limited resources.
Yeah.
Training camp starts in, early August. You've got, in some cases, games happening before students get there. The actual support staff is still on holiday.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not planning the items that you need around your program back in the spring, you'll never get caught up in terms of those promotional items, your broadcast items, your presentation. Sometimes, in terms of deliverables like uniforms, they don't show up until week 2.
Yeah,
it's true. I've seen it happen out here at UBC. I've seen it happen with the Regina Rams, actually, where they got their uniforms late.
Yeah.
That's what happens around Canada. So, everybody's got to up their game. Do they have the passion that you have, or I have, or others have? Right now, I'm not sure the answer is yes, but certainly they need champions within these conferences and within these programs to at least set the bar high. We've got a few of them, like, see 18,000 and 20,000 in the first 2 games at Laval.
Yeah.
My goodness, that's fantastic, right? See the work that Stu Lang and the what he's doing, not just at Guelph, but around the Vanier Cup at Queens.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Let's keep going down that road.
Yeah, of course, got the Vanier Cup here in 2025 in Saskatchewan. Okay, the other reason I had you on here to talk for a couple minutes, you did the CFL by numbers, and I'll retweet it. It's at Jim Mullin TV. You did it a couple of days ago, and I stumbled upon this, and you're a good follow on Twitter, so I'm like, or X, or whatever the hell they call it. So you went right from 1 to 99. Actually, 00 to 99, okay? I see you missed 0, though. Zero's become a number, you know what I mean?
Like square, it's either 00 or 0, and I'll tell you, it's a 00 in the case of the CFL because it's either Sugarfoot Anderson, who I met, by the way, when I worked in Calgary with the Stampeders, fantastic individual, or Les Brown. And because I couldn't get Rod Hill and Les Brown in, I had to go with Les Brown, right? Now this list is not the greatest of all time, but in some cases it is. In some cases, it's just my favorite. Okay. So I've taken a lot of heat, for example, by putting Larry Highbaugh ahead of Anthony Calvillo at 13. Yeah. Right? Larry Highbaugh might have had the best speed ever in this league, right? Larry Highbaugh, I've shared it with a couple of people that have asked me about it. I was a kid watching football, had seasons tickets at Empire Stadium in Vancouver. Larry Highbaugh was a BC Lion. The Lions traded all this talent away to the Eskimos, and they built a dynasty off the back end of it. Larry Highbaugh was one of those guys. So every time he came to Empire Stadium, I watched this guy in terms of returns, but also in terms of a defensive back, and just taking your eyes off the ball and focusing in, even if you're a kid, focusing in on what he did, taught me everything that I needed to know about defensive back. Nice. Right? So I like Larry Highbaugh better than AC. Not that I don't like AC and now what he's doing after his career, but I learned more from this guy. So he's my number 13.
So one that popped out of me, I loved Conrad Holloway, the jump pass, right? To Paul Pearson, and you had Terry Greer and those guys, right? The old Boltman logo. But when I see 7, and it's kind of timely, I think Weston Dressler. So you're right; it's open. It's open for debate. Was there any number? Like, look at 82. You picked Regina's Jason Claremont as a BC Lion, but you could have picked off the top of my head Darren Flutie was an 82. Do you know what I mean?
Or Nick Lewis. Nick Lewis, I could have picked. But
Nick
Lewis. Look, what I tried to do, because you're sharing this with CFL Nation, right? I try to make sure there weren't too many Lions there. Right? I'm born and raised in Vancouver, season tickets from the age of 18 months old to now, and being able to watch all those great Lions teams. I'm not sure if I ever witnessed a more tough and clutch receiver than JC. Jason Claremont was, like we've seen it so many times in the modern offenses we see right now. Guys running patterns, hitting 8, getting just short of the first down. No, Jason would will it to that first down. Jason was the king of the toughest yak yards that we saw in that era of CFL football, right? You just love the guy. You just love the style of play that he had. And plus, I got a special spot for the guys that come up through U Sports football. Yeah. So Jason Claremont's my guy at 82.
I agree. You talk about odd receiving numbers, right? Brian Kelly is a no-brainer at 70, but then you think, well, Jeff Boyd. Jeff Boyd was number 70 with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, right? Then the one that always sticks out for me, my favorite receiver of all time in the CFL, and I see you had Joey Walters there at 17, and I'd say I love Joey Walters. I think of that one catch against BC one-handed at the old Taylor Field. But I couldn't get enough of my first game watching. I forget the year, but we didn't have a lot of money. And I remember my dad took me to a game and we walked up. It was old, damp and dingy and dark at Taylor Field, but you'd walk up the steps and then it was sunlight. And there you go. And you turn to your left and there he was. Mervin Fernandez, number 24, Swervin' Mervin. He had the weird receiver number. I loved it.
Yeah. No, got Mervin in at 24. There's a couple there that if I did it just a few days later, if I did it again, I'd probably change them. Can you guess what numbers I might change? There's two numbers on there I might change.
Okay, hold on here. You're really putting me on the spot.
Yeah. It might be three. Might be three.
Okay, hold on here. Give me a second here. Give me 1 second. No, I don't know. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything. You put me on the spot, so you tell me three.
Number 40, James Quick Parker.
Okay, yeah.
Somebody pointed that out to me. It's how did I miss that? Now, in terms of Paul Giroux, not only did I watch that guy play, but I was a reporter covering the BC Junior Hockey League back in the day, and the Surrey Eagles with Scott Gomez ended up going to a Centennial Cup. After they won the BC Championship in the Nanaimo, we went out to a bush party, and I think Paul Giroux, myself, and a couple of others ended up crushing a 2-4. So Paul Giroux ends up on that list, but really I think it should be
that's good.
It should be Quick Parker. Leo Groenewegen, former UBC Thunderbird. I did not know he wore 96.
Okay.
Right. Guy, 247 games in the CFL. I made arguments that he should be considered for the Hall of Fame. He's another guy. And Jay McNeil, it's a flip a coin between him for me and Mike O'Shea. Mike O'Shea wore 50, right? Yeah. So, I'm not going to put O'Shea ahead of Leo Blanchard at 59 because he did wear 59 at the end of his career. But, maybe O'Shea gets in there at 50 too.
Well,
I don't know.
And if you actually throw O'Shea's coaching career, then he is for sure in there.
But Jay's doing some special stuff in Calgary with that franchise. He's really working hard to turn the thing around.
So lastly, Edmonton has kind of the crowds have gone up now with the new owner. Okay. So I think that is a football town if they can get some winning going. Will they ever get back to 40,000? I doubt it, but I think they could kiss 30,000 consistently. How about Calgary? Is that a football town?
I think it's a football town. I think that a few years ago when Calgary Next was being pushed by the Calgary Sports and Entertainment Group to try to get that thing over the line, the combination of the football stadium and the hockey stadium, they beat the crap out of the reputation of McMahon Stadium, and it's never returned. Hey, look, we know it's a utilitarian stadium built in the 60s, and eventually they built it out for the Olympics, and they've tried to clean it up a couple of times. There's other land and property on that university site. They have the baseball stadium there. They might be able to develop that area. There's another piece of property on the back 40 of the U of C. They might be able to put a stadium there. There may be some private investment that they can tap into that I've heard of, that if I talk to you about it now, a little red site will pop up here and a sniper will take me out. But I think in terms of every team in this league, the one that has the biggest issue with facility is Calgary. If they can address the issue with facility, they can certainly help turn that thing around.
Jim, you've done a great job at Football Canada. Can't wait to see what's next on the international stage. Thanks for your time, bro. And hey, when's that show air again? Thursday, Friday?
Thursday, Friday, but we have it up on YouTube. We have all the Ballsy Uncut, but we've got the uncut version. Yeah. The non-TV version up on YouTube Wednesdays. So you're going to want to see that. Full interview with Farhan, full segments, talking about replay and U Sports, all that fun stuff.
Thanks for your time, man.
Anytime.
All right, thanks to Jim Mullin for joining us live from Vancouver. He lives across the water there from BC Place, showing me before the interview there. Does a great job. I don't know. I don't think he got enough credit for everything he did for Football Canada, but he's now part of the IFAF program there. It's the general secretary, so he's moved on to the international stage. So football still in good hands there, and he'll be able to influence this great sport at, like I said, on the international stage. It's funny, a lot of other reporters now talking about when I first proposed this to Ryan Hall on the Our Balls Are Bigger post-game show after the last game when the Riders beat Calgary, but the early game had Toronto losing to Hamilton. Tiger Cats swept the Argos. I had proposed that Bo Levi Mitchell should be considered for the MOP, even though his team is like 5-9 and, you know, they're on a 3-game heater right now, but he was the guy that was going to get his ass benched by Scott Milanovich. Like Milanovich, sorry, got a tip in my mic here. Scott Milanovich was going to bench him. Too reckless with the football. Taylor Powell protects it more. And I don't want to see anybody hurt, but Powell took a mean shot in the head. He's on the 6th game, so Bo Levi Mitchell comes off the bench. And it's one of those F-you to the coach. Like, you know what? No, I'm going to show you who should be playing. Dude went 31 of 40 in the last game for 362 yards and a touchdown. They won that game. Of course, Leggio kicked a million field goals, but they won the game. He protected the ball. And now they're going to BC, where the Lions today rule out Alexander Hollins. Speaking of the Lions, on Friday, we're going to have Bo Lacombo on the show, talk to him about his season, about his brother's season as the starting safety for your Saskatchewan Roughriders. We'll get to that on Friday. But back to Bo Levi Mitchell. I said he should be the MOP. Ryan kind of said, well, they need to go on a great run to make the playoffs and everything like that, which there are two things I don't like about awards and MOP, like MOPs and awards and all this stuff. It should be voted on at the end of the season after the playoffs. Because I could pick a dude in the regular season and he goes out in round number 1, and the guy who is kind of neck and neck with him during the season, his team goes all the way through and wins the playoffs, whether it's hockey, baseball, or whatever. And that's when the MOP, that's when the All-Stars, that's when the best defensive player, that's when it all should be handed out, in my opinion. Now, I don't know what the logistics would be with regards to voting for that. By the way, the All-Stars are out. And most of my audience is Saskatchewan based. I understand that, trying to grow it. Tell all your friends. We talk all CFL teams here. As you can see in the back, I got a Calgary helmet. I got an Argo helmet. I got Alouette stuff. I got Rider stuff. I got Bomber stuff. I got Edmonton Elkimo stuff. So yeah, we cover it all here on Ballsy Uncut. The All-Star voting is opened. And if you're a Rider, you got to vote Logan Ferland, stud, and you got to vote Roland Milligan. So back to the MOP, and that's where I'm going with this. So who would your MOP be if in the East if it isn't Bo Levi Mitchell? Like, it's not Bo Levi Mitchell's fault. His receivers couldn't. Tim White, who's a great receiver, couldn't catch a cold at the start of the year. Other guys are dropping passes. It's not his fault. The secondary was Swiss cheese and couldn't stop anybody. The worst secondary play I've ever seen from a professional team since maybe the Riders in the early 80s. Like, I couldn't, late 70s, early 80s, they couldn't cover anybody. My grandma could go out. My grandma's not even alive. And my mom has one leg, God love her. She could go out, run a curl route on that Hamilton secondary and make a catch. Like, that's how bad it was at the start of the year. I'm sorry, but it's true. So why is that Bo Levi Mitchell's fault? Why is it his fault? He's got 24 touchdowns, 13 picks, 4,400 yards passing. He leads in every statistical category. And I don't even think he has the most interceptions in the league now. I think Collaros has more than him. Jake Mayer's got to be up there. Like, this guy is the MOP. The Tiger Cats don't have a sniff if not for Bo Levi Mitchell. But if you're not going with him because you got to go with record, then we got to go Cody Fajardo, I guess. Darnell Sankey, who's an absolute stud. And Sankey, really, since he joined that team, they're basically almost unbeatable. I think they've lost 2 games since Darnell Sankey and tied 1 since Darnell Sankey's been on the team. So it would probably go Sankey 1 and Cody 2 if you're going record-wise. But I think it should be Bo Levi Mitchell. Now all the other reporters coming out of the woodwork, oh, what if he should be? Maybe his numbers. No, not maybe. There's no debate. Bo Levi Mitchell, unless he sucks from here on out, as we talk right now on September 25th, tell me a player that deserves the MOP more than Bo Levi Mitchell. Can't think of one. Can't think of one. At one point, it would have had Tyrese Beverett out east as well. But out west, who do you got? It's not Nathan Rourke. It's not Jake Mayer. It's not Zach Collaros. Brady Oliveira just scored his first 2 touchdowns of the year. He's a 1,000-yard rusher, but just first 2 touchdowns of the year. Actually, you want to go by stats. If Raquel Armstead, who's got 839 yards rushing, if he, and 3 touchdowns, 1 more than Brady Oliveira, if he can piece together a good 4-game stretch here and get to 1,200, 1,300 yards, he could get serious consideration depending on how many touchdowns he gets. And if he gets his team to the playoffs, you certainly could make a case in this kind of muddled up year. But right now out west, you'd have to go two options. Justin McInnes, the former Rough Rider. I wish they never would have let him get away. Maybe he was going anyway, but I'd said they got to re-sign this guy. He's starting to come into his own. He's got 1,169 yards receiving and 7 touchdowns, averaging like almost, I think it's 16.6 yards a catch or something like that, or 15.6. He is probably the favorite because they usually go offensive guys. But if you're like Roland Milligan, 6 interceptions, leading in defensive knockdowns before he took the game off for his 4th child. Also covers kicks. He's got like, does he have 88 tackles or something like that? But it's like 70 defensive tackles and 18 special teams tackles. But that's it. Who else are you going to pick for MOP candidates? I'm serious. For All-Star for the Riders, there's only 2 really off the top of my head. That's you could make a case for Micah Johnson too, actually. 3. What do we call him? All CFL now? Yeah, I'll take it or leave it with that. But anyway, All-Stars. Micah Johnson's a guy, but for sure it's Furland, it's Milligan, and I could live with Micah Johnson too. Anthony Lanier would be an All-Star every year if he could stay on the field. You're just hoping if you're a Rider fan, he does stay on the field. Okay, so up next here, this guy is coming to Weyburn. He's going to do a dinner in support of Kelly Chase, and Kelly Chase is bringing him in on the Saturday, October 26th. But I have become friends with Jeremy Roenick and kind of helped dot the I's and cross the T's on this. So I will be on the stage with a hot stove with him and with Dwight McMillan, the longtime great coach and hockey icon in Weyburn, on October 24th. Great fundraiser for the Weyburn Red Wings. There's still tickets available. If you want to get tickets, go to their Facebook page or their social media page of Weyburn Red Wings, and they have all the details there, and even the website. So, hey, before we get there, Rocky says, no, he was making very bad passes at bad times. That was killing him. It was his fault. Bo was making bad passes. The old Bo scared me. This Bo doesn't one bit. And disagree. Bo was making some bad passes, but he was trying to come back in games. It wasn't Bo Levi Mitchell's fault. Dude has 4,400 yards passing, 24 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions. If not for Bo Levi Mitchell, they're probably the worst team in the league right now. He is if you want the definition of most valuable player, if you want the definition, there's 4 guys that can be considered. Sankey, Darnell Sankey, because they won with Alexander. So it's Sankey and it's Bo Levi Mitchell in the East. And in the West, it's Justin McInnes and it's Roland Milligan. I think those are your 4. Those are your 4. Anyway, Jeremy Roenick, JR, finally going into the Hockey Hall of Fame after 12 years. He's coming to Weyburn October 24th, and he's going to join us now. Yeah, Hockey Hall of Famer. Jeremy Roenick joins us. That has a nice ring to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I don't think I still am. It's hit me, or I can get used to it, and I don't think I want to get used to it. I'm really honored, and it's hit me like a freight train, and I'm very happy about that. And so thanks again for that, and it's good to be with you.
Yeah, it's good to be with you too. So where were you when you found out? You've probably been asked this 100 times, but I'm asking you for the first time.
Yeah, I was in the car coming out of the gym, sweaty, wet, and so I had a missed call on my phone and called it back and got connected to the main hotline of the Hockey Hall of Fame, and said press 3 for tickets, press 4 for tours and all that stuff. And I was like, what? That's weird. And I was literally getting a coffee, driving through the drive-through at Starbucks, and Mike Gartner and Lane McDonald rang me again, and the floodgates opened. It was pretty emotional.
Oh, wow, man. Yeah, no kidding. Hey, who's the first person or people you think about when something like that, once your mind settles and it starts to marinate?
Well, the first person I called was my wife and then my kids. So that's obviously the first instinct. The next person I called was Chris Chelios. He's been such an integral part of my life and my career, one of my best friends. So I called him, and then went down the row. But I thought of people like Steve Larmer. I felt like Tony Amonte, Keith Kachuk. These guys are these are the guys that I just thought of, especially like Keith Kachuk and Steve Larmer, because they're not in the Hall of Fame. And I would think that they probably will be at some point. But it's almost like your entire career just kind of flashes through your through your space, and the gratitude becomes immense.
Yeah. Is it cool? Because when you're playing, you don't stop and smell the roses, right? You're on to the next city, the next game, the next series. Is it cool in a time like this to stop and smell the roses, look at old jerseys, look at old clippings, people reach out to you that haven't reached out to you for a while?
Well, that statement does not relate to me, because I've never stopped and smelled the roses until this year. This is really the first year that I've literally just kind of stopped, changed my viewpoint of life, my mentality of relationships, my viewpoint of where I'm going. I know where I've been, and I've never really focused on where I want to go. I've just let the winds take me. I think now I really sit and I think about where I've been, what I've done, the accomplishments, the goods, the bads, the heartaches. And with this, you literally sit back and relish the opportunity. And I think because I've been able to do that, I think I'm way more excited about the future, and I think I'm way more calm and content with the past.
Are you writing your speech? Have you rewrote it 3 times? What are you doing with that?
Well, I don't think it's a shocker to say that I am a speak from the heart type of guy.
Yeah, that's right.
I will have a cheat sheet of topics that I want to make sure that I hit, people that I do want to mention, and I'm sure I'll throw a bunch of, but I will be speaking from the heart and winging it when I'm up there, and trying as hard as I can to stay within the time limit that they're trying to keep for me.
What do you get?
They say 5 minutes, but I've already told them that that's not happening.
Over under 2 minutes, you'll be crying.
Way under.
Yeah.
I did a press conference in Chicago the other day, and the first time I spoke publicly in front of media, and I felt myself tearing up walking to the microphone.
I watched that. That was
didn't even say anything. I had to fight back some emotion. And that was in front of 12 people in a hockey rink. Yeah. When I step in front of all those people at the Hall of Fame, it is going to be every ounce of my being to fight through emotion before word one.
Yeah. Hey, Jeremy, we only have you for a couple more minutes because you are slammed, man. You're coming to Weyburn. We'll get to that in a second. But when you grow up playing street hockey or whatever, you think about scoring the game-winning goal in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. You maybe don't think about the being a Hockey Hall of Famer with all the greats. I just wondered, did you ever think about that? Like, I'm going to be one of the greatest of all time to play in the NHL. Did you ever think about that when you were a young kid?
I didn't. I just loved what I was doing and had so much fun playing hockey. I didn't even really think about being able to be an NHL hockey player until mid-teens, where I'm like, maybe there's a shot. Walking into Chicago Stadium for my first time at 18, being a first-round draft pick, I still questioned it after I walked in and saw the people that I had to play against. No, I never was that guy. I mean, I did score a goal on the, in the driveway that won the Stanley Cup about 1 million times.
Mm-hmm.
But not many people have that opportunity like Patrick Kane did, like Alec Martinez did, to literally score a goal that won the Stanley Cup. It's a very rare thing. And that's not something I think that would have come to my mind back then, because it is such a rare feat, but it is. And to win a Stanley Cup is a rare feat. I never got to do it, which is going to be an asterisk in my career.
But is this a good runner-up, Jeremy? Like, I know you want to win the cup.
This is the only runner-up.
Yeah.
This is the only runner-up to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
This puts a stamp on my athletic career. Yeah. On my hockey career.
Hey, you got to see a full season now of Connor Bedard, who is in my city here, Regina, with the Pats. What do you think about his future?
I think he's incredibly talented, and incredibly devoted to his craft. There's no question about it. He had an extremely productive season last year, and I think probably did more than a lot of people thought, and maybe didn't do as much as people thought. I think he had just a perfect season to start out his career. I think he's young, he's very small. I think he's fragile, which we've seen, and I think he has some fear on the ice that I think he has to get over. I think he's intimidated a lot with the size of the game, but that's not a negative thing. That's an obvious thing, because he is 18 and he is small, and he does have to get used to the NHL pace and size and physicality of it. And he will learn with that. There's no question that he is going to be a dominant force in the league. I would never put him in the league of a Connor McDavid, but he's definitely a generational player that can turn the Blackhawks around and turn them into another team that can compete for the Stanley Cup at some point.
Okay, so we're going to dive into deeper in October 24th in Weyburn, as you're coming in for that, and I get the opportunity to share the stage with you, which I'm excited about. But I want to ask you, at that Chicago press conference, you were unveiling what you were going to donate to the Hockey Hall of Fame. I found that the first time you scored 50 goals in that 75th anniversary jersey. Where'd you find? Did you forget about that? Where'd you find that one?
That was a hard one to give up.
Yeah,
that was a really hard to give up. We wore 3 jerseys that year. Yeah. That one being like the celebratory 75th anniversary jersey. That was a conversation that we had to have. I saw all the slashes and all the tape marks and a couple of blood stains on it, and knowing that it was very important to me, but it was my first 50th goal. It was in Boston in front of my family. It was very meaningful. And I think, I have a few of those things. I could part with a couple of them. I do have jerseys from that season, but not the one that is so hard and rare to get. And I think the really rare things should be in a case enshrined in the hall for everybody to see. So we made the right decision on that one. Yeah.
So what's that conversation like with your kids? Because they probably don't want dad to part with some of that stuff. They want that for themselves.
My kids are they're very understanding and neutral on all that stuff. I mean, they know all about my career. They know the things that are important. Material things to my kids aren't as important as the memories, right? The 500 goal puck is a little different story. I was the third American ever to do it. Yeah. That's one that my kids will keep and keep sacred, but they're okay with it. They love sharing their dad with the world.
Hey, I love the 80s Bantam jacket or whatever it was. I love when you would talk about giving that one up.
You want to talk about memories? That was where I really felt and tasted championship celebration. I mean, to win a national championship back-to-back seasons, and the first national championship we won in a 6 overtime marathon, and there are a lot of memories behind that. But again, I was 130 pounds tops, and that jacket literally was worn 3 years before I was playing in the National Hockey League. And it's an amazing, I think, transformation of a life. It was crazy.
Yeah, Amazon's doing this docu-series now coming out October the 4th. And had this been 15 years earlier, you would have been the star of it because you were a guy that has been outspoken your whole career and a real character. One of the few characters in hockey, actually, that we get to see. Did you ever take any heat for that, for being a character, for being kind of outlandish at all? Did you rub people the wrong way that way?
Well, I don't know if you noticed, but it took 12 years to get into the Hall of Fame.
I guess so, hey? I guess so. But you know what? You'd be happy that hockey's embracing it now, would you not? I mean, they're a little bit behind the times, but man, they could, it's something you should.
I'm gonna kind of disagree with that because I still think there's an expectation, and there is maybe an unwritten code within the National Hockey League coming down from management. I think coming from a historical background that there's nobody bigger than a team. We don't accept individualism. We don't accept celebratory bullshit, to say the least.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to be brutally honest. It's really hard to be outspoken and controversial in the National Hockey League still. Yeah. I still don't think we have the Jeremy Roenick's or PK Subbans of the National Hockey League. You have guys like Jack Hughes, who's very vocal, Matthew Tkachuk, who's very fun and vocal, but they're very few and far between.
Yeah. Okay, we'll wrap it up here. You're coming to Saskatchewan. You got a dinner in PA with Kelly Chase, but you're joining us a couple days before in Weyburn. I don't know if you've been to Saskatchewan before, but Saskatchewan's a place that produces a lot of NHL players. So how nice is it for you to get out to the kind of the grassroots of hockey and talk to people?
Well, first of all, you'll be very surprised to know I love Saskatchewan. I'm there quite often.
Oh, okay.
Yep. I've been there 5 or 6 times over the last 5 years. So I go there at least once a year to do some sort of event, whether it's a charity hockey tournament or going up there to help raise money for the university arena, which I did at one point. I love Saskatchewan. I love every part of it. I've been to Regina. I've been to Moose Jaw. I've been pretty much everywhere. Prince Albert will be my first time I'm there. But you are right. Grassroots, great hockey fans, great people. And I always question why Saskatoon would never be a city that can support an NHL team, because I would love to see that. I think if Winnipeg could, why couldn't Saskatoon? And who knows? Maybe someday, if the ticket prices come down just a little bit, the salaries drop a little bit, Saskatoon will be able to
that's not happening. Hey, Jeremy, thanks for this, man. Can't wait to see you in Weyburn, October 24th. Have a great day and enjoy all the accolades that come with what happened to you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Matt. Thank you so much for having me. Look forward to getting up there and enjoying some real hockey fans.
Yeah, you saw our friends there at District Brewing, one of our sponsors, AGT Foods, Murad Al-Khatib, and his brother Omar getting on board, sponsoring this podcast. So thanks to them for doing that. And Paul Waldo, the 3-time Grey Cup champ at Royal LePage, 306-5025-355, getting the real estate game. We'll talk U Sports football, Can West football. They got a big game against Manitoba this week, trying to keep their playoff hopes alive. And we'll also talk CFL with him. He's a coach with the Huskies and, of course, still in tune with CFL football. Hasn't officially retired from CFL football, but he's making way more money than he did in the CFL in the real estate game. This is the other thing I wanted to touch on. I touched on it with Jeremy there, October 24th. Get your tickets for the dinner in Weyburn. He would have been perfect for their Amazon Prime series, and he disagrees with me, and he knows better than me. So there probably is that unwritten rule where you still can't say too much. Lou Lamoriello doesn't let them have long hair or facial hair with the Islanders. I'm old school, but that's a little bit stupid old school. But it's nice to see them coming out and doing a good job promoting their team. They've got that new docuseries coming out, which drops on October 4th. They've got Amazon Prime Hockey on Monday, and they've got their own red zone type of setup on Thursday nights where they go around the lake, bang, 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 which is going to be great. That's what they need to do. The NHL And the CFL are the worst at promoting their product. The NHL is actually the worst because they've got access to more money. The CFL has never really invested in their product. They're starting to. I feel like maybe they're a little, even though they're doing a better job with social media and some of their television advertising, keep it unreal and all that stuff. They still are behind the 8 ball because they got to it late. They got to the party late. They got there and the party's half over. So hopefully it's great to see they're getting back together with Football Canada and getting that relationship going and getting in touch with grassroots football. It kind of makes you wonder why they ever got away from it. They got away from grassroots football in Canada, but went global. The NFL has global cornered. I'm sorry. It's just the way that it is. But anyway, great to see the NHL getting on board. I think the CFL should do something like that as well. Maybe with Rogers buying a good chunk of MLSE, maybe Rogers will get in the broadcasting game, or we can get some sort of more like that running back resilient with Andrew Harris. We had him on the show to talk about that documentary that aired on Crave, if I'm not mistaken, or Amazon Apple TV is what it was. So we need more of that. CFL needs more of that. Get to the party before the party's over and mom's calling you to come home. Okay. All right. So with that in mind, we're going to now hook up with the commissioner of the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League, Kyle McIntyre, to wrap up the show. Not only is he a commissioner of a hockey league, he's also a rider, fan, goes to all the games, drives, commutes from Southwest Saskatchewan to here to watch the game. So he loves football and loves it so much. He's a amateur football ref, something I didn't really know. Maybe I knew that before, but didn't really pay attention because you know me, if I'm not talking, I'm not listening. I'm joking. I'm getting to be better at listening, or so people tell me, except for my significant other. All right, the commissioner of the SJHL, Kyle McIntyre, joining us here. So before we get to hockey, you're a football official. How long have you been doing that for?
About 26 years, Michael. Officiating football, but maybe not doing it well.
Oh, so you could be in the NFL or CFL then?
Some games, maybe, yeah.
Maybe there's a command center future for you.
No command center, but the crew that I ref with, they take it very seriously. And so quite often after games, we'll share video and we'll discuss calls. And the only thing that really saves us is that probably the coaches and the players know less about the rules than we do.
It's not easy though. I mean, when you actually officiate a sport and then you hear complaints about officials, or maybe as a fan watch games, you're like, yeah, it looks easy, but it's not. And you're not even, no disrespect, but you're not even reffing professional athletes.
Yeah, and you know what? Like we have a pretty good crew of about ideally we have 7. We had 7 last night as ref from Swift Current and Estevan, but ideally, most of us work together. There's probably about 4 of us that work together a very long time, probably 10 or 12 years. So we kind of know how to read one another and what we should and shouldn't do and what's a call and not a call. And so we're pretty lucky that way. But like everywhere else in Southwest Saskatchewan, there's a shortage of officials. And so old guys like me shouldn't be doing a lot of high school games, but I probably could do more games than I want to do, actually.
Is that a concern?
I think it's a concern everywhere. It's a concern in hockey, it's a concern in volleyball, basketball, football. There's just really a lack of officials around. It's a little bit different because my philosophy is I'm not doing it to make money. I'm doing it to give back to kids and youth and sport. And a lot of the young guys that you start out and you think you can mentor them and bring them along, they drop off, fairly quickly because going out on a Friday night with your buddies is probably a lot more attractive than going and doing a game in Gull Lake, Saskatchewan or Shaunavon, Saskatchewan.
Mm-hmm. So you do 9 and 12, man. I get messed up as a fan / announcer / doing a podcast between junior, U Sports, CFL, NFL, the different rules. Do you get messed up a little bit still between 9 and 12, man? Like the rules are a little bit different, aren't they?
Well, they're a little bit different, but it's still Canadian amateur football. And so most things that you would call in a 6-man game, you might call in a 12-man game. 6-man, more people are eligible to be receivers on the line. Doesn't matter how many you put on the line. At the end of the day, there's a couple guys that are catching ball, a couple guys that are blocking. The 6-man, you're doing a lot more running than probably the 12-man because it's kind of a quicker game. And in 6-man game, you have a strong quarterback who's got a good arm, and you have a fast receiver. There's a lot of offense that can be generated. So old guys got to run a lot harder in the 6-man than you do in the 12.
Are you in good shape?
Well, I'm in probably not the same shape you're in, Michael, but I'm in pretty good shape for my age. Yep, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of shape I'm in now. I spend a lot of time in my basement alone, kind of like high school.
TMI.
Yeah, TMI. Let's stop there. Did you ever get smoked in a game? Like, did you ever get in the wrong position?
Funny you should say that. I was doing a game in Maple Creek with Maple Creek, Shaunavon, and Gull Lake 3 weeks ago, and I was side judge. So we were rotating. Side judge had official umpire. And a play got broken up, and I was on the sticks on the markers, and a play got kind of a broken play, came out of bounds. There's 3 guys came charging at me. I got a helmet right in the right ribs. I'm convinced I cracked my ribs. I can't do a sit-up. I can't do a crunch. I can't cough. I can't laugh. And that was 3 weeks ago. So, yeah. So, I mean, I didn't go down to my credit, but it was a heck of a shot I took right to the ribs.
Well, fortunately, there's no humor in this podcast, so you won't be laughing, which is good. We'll keep you.
There you go.
We'll keep you healthy. Hey, you got that SJHL jersey over your shoulder there, as we see. You're the commissioner. You whet your appetite with the first weekend, going into the second weekend. What do we see in the first weekend? Any trends? Anything any overreaction early stuff?
Well, I hope that some of the trends that I've observed are going to continue throughout the season. We had excellent attendance. I was in both Yorkton and Melville and Weyburn last weekend, and strong crowds. Probably had 1,200 in Yorkton, which is absolutely fantastic to see. Probably had 1,100 probably in Melville, and then probably about 800 in Weyburn. So really good crowds, really enthusiastic. Level of play is super. Like the speed already is excellent. And I mean, each team has probably played 2 games, so it's tough to say how that's going to trend out. It's still early in the season, but of the teams I watched, I think Melville has got a real good, exciting offensive team. Humboldt is deep from top to bottom. They're super fast, and playing for Braden Klamosko has not changed the way the Humboldt Broncos have changed. Melford has got a lot of players back. They're going to be a real strong contender. Yorkton is going to be a heck of a lot better than they were last year. I would say the Hounds are probably going to struggle a little bit. And I think Weyburn is always competitive. They're always feisty. Cody always brings a pretty good team to the ice. They got to figure some stuff out. And probably the first thing they got to figure out is staying out of the box and playing with some of our new rules.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the new rules in a second. And Cody is a feisty guy, and generally teams take on the character of their coach, so we may have to fine-tune that. I actually was talking to him this morning, and that's what he said. And also, he said we have really good goaltending, and they just didn't play as well as they could the first weekend. So that'll hopefully trend in the right direction. Speaking of Weyburn, are you coming out on October 24th? I got my buddy Jeremy Roenick to come to town for a fundraising dinner. Like, the Hockey Hall of Famer is coming. We're going to share the stage. Dwight McMillan's going to be there, and we're going to break some bread.
You know what? Cody was telling me about that on Sunday, and I didn't know that you were connected to Jeremy Roenick. I said, how the heck did you guys get Jeremy Roenick? And he said, well, Ballsy is a buddy of Roenick, and so he's kind of set it up. So sounds pretty exciting. I'm going to have to check my calendar, but I think that'll be a heck of an event for both Southeast Saskatchewan and, most importantly, for the Red Wings.
And you can't get any better than having a Hall of Famer in town like Dwight McMillan, and a hockey Hall of Famer, one of the greatest to play, in Jeremy Roenick, who is a character, something hockey. And he and I, we'll talk about this a little later on the show, but he is a guy that it took him 12 years to get into the Hockey Hall of Fame, and a lot of it is because he rubbed people the wrong way. But I think hockey needs more of that. And I think we're starting to see that now with this Amazon series that's coming out and everything like that. Hockey's kind of slipped behind the curve. CFL has slipped behind the curve. Those 2 leagues in particular need to embrace social media, need to embrace personality.
Well, you know, if you're a fan of the PGA one that came up full swing, if you're a fan of Formula One, I mean, really, that really drew a lot of followership to those sports that maybe people that didn't normally follow it. Even the quarterback series on Netflix. So I think people want to see that. They want to see personality, and they don't want to see people that are buttoned down and and maybe not able to show their true personality. So a guy like Jeremy Roenick in a sportsman's dinner like that is going to be a lot of fun to listen to for sure.
And I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm not exactly buttoned down either. So it could get it could be a pretty good night on the stage. Of course, he's center stage. Okay, so back to you're mentioning some of the teams. Yep. In a previous life, I was interviewing the Yorkton Terriers. They were just starting then, trying to get people to come on board because they were financially in trouble. How are they off the ice? By the sounds of it, they're going in the right direction and pretty quickly, too.
Well, you know what? Last year they had that cry for help, and I think they let people know that, hey, you know what? The Terriers are not going to be viable unless we get off our hands and do something to support the team. And really, as I knew this would happen, but they sold 1,100 season tickets at about $300 each, which is awesome. They've increased their corporate sponsorship, which is also good. They brought back an egg project they didn't have previously. They had a sportsman's dinner last year hosted by Craig Adam, and they had Shorzy on there. Yeah. So that was good. And then they had an alumni golf tournament this past weekend that I attended. And you know what? Hockey is back in Yorkton. There's a lot of enthusiasm. They've changed over their board. Calvin Tokarek is their marketing guy. He's pretty enthusiastic. And I think Emery Olofsson has got a good team, a competitive team. It's his picks. It's his roster. They're playing an exciting style. And so I think there's a new vision for the Terriers. There's a solid fiscal plan. Most of our teams run a budget of probably about $800,000 to $1 million a year. So you need multiple projects to generate those funds. And so the Terriers have really done that. And the community of Yorkton is coming back. And I think they're going to have a pretty exciting and competitive team this year.
That's challenging, right? Especially in these small centers. We're not talking about Regina, Calgary, Edmonton. We're talking about Yorkton. We're talking about Melville. We're talking about Melfort. It's not easy to generate those type of funds.
And junior hockey is kind of, it's cyclical. So you aren't always going to be competitive, right? It's probably like a 5-year cycle. So you're good for about 2 or 3, and then you might take another 3 or 4 or 5 to build a team again. And so it is cyclical. And I think that one of the challenges last year with the Terriers is that 25% of their home games were in the first 2 months of the season, and they were midweek. Midweek attendance is not great for anybody, especially in the SJHL, because people are working, people have kids in school, some of our games might go late, and so really we should be a weekend league, and so we've told our teams as much as possible, try to do your schedule for the weekends, the Friday, the Saturday, the Sunday, because you're going to maximize attendance and families, and you're going to have access to better officials. So.
How much are you involved in that and the office involved in that, and how much fighting is involved? Because we hear it at the CFL level. Why are there Thursday night games? Why don't the Riders have more? But I mean, everybody's got to work together in a partnership. How do we, because not everybody can play on weekends, right? Everybody's got their own interests. How much are you involved in that?
Well, I mean, I try to work with the governors, and we try to set parameters for when the schedule is going to occur and recommendations around that. And of course, I have Brad Howard and Chad Marshall that assign a lot of our officials. And for us, it's tough. Like on a Friday in Flin Flon or La Ronge, a lot of our officials go to school in Regina or in Saskatoon, even though they're from small communities. They live in those communities. The young guys that are working, they got to take half a day off of work to travel up to Flin Flon. And so we're not always getting our best officials traveling on the weekend because sometimes it's too far. The other thing is that some of our officials do the Western League, they do the American Hockey League, they do the PWHL. So those folks aren't always available. And then come provincial time, when you have some senior hockey and you have provincial playdowns, everyone wants the same reps. So I mean, the officiating is probably the biggest barrier. But, when you talk about the Riders, for example, so my wife and I were at the Labor Day game. And if it was a Thursday night game for us, my wife teaches, and so that'd be difficult for her. We're traveling from Swift Current. We're probably not staying overnight on Thursday, probably driving back again. So you're not getting home till 2 a.m. Mm-hmm. So a little tougher in rural Saskatchewan, where the fan base is coming from all over the province to Regina. So I don't know how to feel about it, but I like watching the CFL, whether it's a Thursday or Friday or a Sunday. I watch it. I watch on TV primarily, but Yeah, I think the weekend though, it's easier for the families because you're not working. Stuff slows down. You know when your kids' activities are, and so
You
and
bet
and
you're on the management side. So here's something I said the CFL should look at budgeting for, because I look at the trends. CFL, I'd love to have every stadium full, but that's just not realistic with what you said. What you just said, life gets in the way, money gets in the way. There's different, midweek games or like Thursday games. So I said the CFL should budget for between 17 and 20,000 a game. They got a good TV deal with TSN, and if they could get another one or somehow like that, and budget that way, because I think gone are the days of the Riders having 30 straight sellouts. Now I'm not trying to give any excuses to the current regime. I think they could do a lot better on the field and off the field to get people interested to come to the games. But I think in general, gone are the days of like the Edmonton, no matter how good Edmonton's going to be, the Elkamos. Regardless, I don't think, by the way, John Ryan gave me that term. I just want to give him credit. But whether the Elkamos are good again or not, they're starting to get crowds, but 22, 23, 24. I don't think we're going to see 35 there like we did in the 90s. And are you seeing that from the commissioner standpoint? Like, listen, it's great to have 1,100, but let's be honest here. We're probably looking at this number. And that's not a defeatist attitude. It's realistic.
Well, like some of our venues are smaller. They're not going to get 1,100 unless their teams make the playoffs. So last weekend I went to Yorkton, Melville. Melville last year was probably consistently around 900. Melville's a hockey community. It's an older community. The fans like to have a competitive team. Doug Johnson built a competitive team. So I'm confident that number is going to be 900 to 1,000, and they're going to be a wagon this year, so maybe a little bit higher. Yorkton is exciting to watch as well. They sold all those season tickets. They're probably going to be around 900 as well. Notre Dame, I went to the game Sunday. They played Humboldt. They said there was 400. There's maybe about 78 kids and maybe another 75 parents. So they're not drawing 1,000 there unless they're in the playoffs, semifinal, final of the SJHL. Nipawin is probably going to draw somewhere between 500 and 700 a game. Larange will draw around, probably on a weekend, on a Friday or Saturday, they're probably drawing 700 people. So, our smaller venues are going to draw smaller numbers, like based on your community size, right? So, so if we averaged, 900 to 1,000 regular season, I'm extremely happy with that. Our sponsors would be very happy with that, with the return on investment. They're getting eyes on their logos. They're getting eyes and ears on the announcements and the social media. So that's what we need to aspire towards. But it's a great value for money, and it's great for families. And I think, like if the CFL, for example, I think they got to appeal to families, Michael, because your kids are going to be your future generation of fans, right? And so something we try to do strategically as a league is do outreach to schools and outreach to minor hockey. And so that we have our players building relationships with boys and girls in communities. Probably no one does a better job with the outreach than Weyburn. Cody has really done a good job with the kids doing that. And there's a lot of kids running around those rinks, right? So again, that's what we try to do. Maybe the CFL should try to do something similar. The thing that kind of bothered me about the Riders the last few years, like think about the Chris Jones regime in Regina. So you had a roster. You would go to a game, and it would be a different roster like every week. And then they had probably another 100 guys living in one of the hotels in Regina on the ghost roster that no one was supposed to know about. So how are you ever going to make a connection? Like gone were the Fairholms, gone were the Farthings, the Algards, all those guys that we all watched for years and we loved and we rooted for, and you'd still see some of their jerseys at the games, right? So I mean, I think, and again in the CFL, like lots of turnover on teams now, right? So traditionally, you had Lancaster and you had Reed, and you had those guys. You had Huffnagel, guys that you recognize and guys that were there for a while, and there was some continuity. But it's tough to get to know teams if you're having a high turnover.
Well, they're trying to do that now by signing guys to longer term deals and giving them some incentive, like the Collaros. Even Austin Mack came back from the NFL, signed a 4-year deal with Montreal. So they're trying to do that, but you're 100% right. And it's funny that Chris Jones thing. not only that, but all the coaches and everything like that. That's why they set the operation, the coaching cap, the business side cap on the CFL. So there's an operations cap now because of the Jones era in Saskatchewan under Craig Reynolds' watch, and now the rest of the league's paying for it. Okay, lastly, you talking about paying for it, penalties. Different rules. You talked about Cody's team as one example having to adapt. Can you fill my viewers and listeners in on some of the rule changes in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League?
Okay, so now we're following the Western Hockey League rules. We're in a pilot called the Western Canadian Development Model Pilot. First and foremost, people are going to notice that visors are back. So our players 2006 and older are wearing half visors by their choice. That's awesome. The other rules are designed to create more offense. So puck over the glass, it didn't used to be a penalty. You couldn't make a change in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. Now it's a penalty for delay a game. So in the game I watched between Melville and Estevan, 4 power play goals, pucks over the glass. So that's something people are going to notice. Sticks down first in the defensive zone. So usually you try to get an advantage on a face-off. Usually face-offs will determine whether you have puck possession or a scoring chance. So in the defensive zone, the defensive team puts their stick down first. The offense puts it down second. So probably a greater chance they're going to win the draw because they're coming in and they're not set for the draw. So that's one. Checking from behind. We used to have a 5-minute penalty and automatic game misconduct. Now the officials have some discretion. They can call a 2-minute penalty unless the player is targeting another player. And then in that case, it's a 5-minute match, but typically that's 2 minutes. Passing a puck, shooting a puck, following through, you hit a guy in the face and the guy is split open, automatic 4 or 5 in the past. Now it's a 2-minute penalty if it was not intentional. Okay. So some of those things they're different. They're different kind of rules. Net. So scramble around the net. Net gets knocked off. Team scores. Last year's goal was disallowed. This year, scoring chance, someone knocks off the net intentionally, puck goes in, it's an automatic goal. So a bunch of those things are kind of subtle, but really they're designed to create more offense. And again, for us, we have a lot of players that are developing with us and then going to the Western Hockey League. We develop a lot of officials. And so our officials, typically we have 108, probably about 56 do the Western League. We want them to have similar rules so they don't have to go kind of back and forth and try to decide how things are done or not done. So it's better for our officials. I think it's better for our kids. And I think it's creating more offense for the fans, which we want to do.
Man, thanks for your time. Stay safe on the football field. Good luck with the rib. And if you show up in Weyburn on October 24th, I'll take a picture with you, maybe with JR, and I'll buy a drink.
Awesome. I think I'll do that.
Thanks to our friend Kyle McIntyre, who is the commissioner of the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. If you missed this show, you can get it in podcast form a little later on when I post it, wherever you get your podcasts. Apparently, we're getting jerked around by Apple again, so we're figuring that out. But it's at Spotify, Google Music, a bunch of iHeart, wherever you get your podcasts, you can find Ballsy Uncut there, and the Our Balls Are Bigger post-game show. So, if you missed the show, we had Jeremy Roenick on, the Hockey Hall of Famer. He'll be in Weyburn October 24th with yours truly doing a dinner. Make sure you get tickets. Go to their website, go to their social media, the Weyburn Red Wings social media platforms, and they'll have details on how you can get tickets. They're going fast. 12 tables sold just like that when they made the announcement. So it's going to be great for the community. Also, Dwight McMillan will be featured in a hot stove too with yours truly. So can't wait for that. Also, Jim Mullin, the outgoing president of Football Canada, who is now the general secretary of IFAF, International Football, American Football. So he is going to still have a prominent role in developing the sport only on the international level. So you can hear his interview if you want to check that out. We also heard from Nic Demski of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers getting set for their return matchup against the Edmonton Elkimos. Friday in Winnipeg, chance to really stick a dagger in the Elkimos playoff hopes. And if you're a Rider fan, help the Riders out if they can take care of business against the Ottawa Redblacks here. No Santos Knox in the middle, no Pickett in the middle. I don't think there's much of a chance for Ottawa to win, to be quite honest with you. I think the Riders by 8. That's my pick. I got the Riders winning. I got the Lions beating the Tiger Cats. Won't be a blowout, but I think the Lions will win, probably by a touchdown. I got Montreal beating Toronto. The Argos are up and down like Chad Kelly's Twitter feed. 1 minute it's okay, next minute it's controversial, although it's been pretty stable lately. But you never know what you're getting with the Argos, so I got Montreal. And I think Edmonton's going to play well. McLeod Bethel Thompson is the right man behind center, I believe. He was hot before he was pulled for Trey Ford. They're in Edmonton. It's going to be a tough game. They're fighting for their playoff lives, but I think the home field advantage and the veteran presence of guys like Bryant, Kolaros, Oliveira, Demski will get it done. They'll sweep the home and home. So those are my picks. I'm 36, 25-2 on the season. Hi to Jeff, who is just chimed in on social media watching here at the end. Sorry, the show's about to wrap up, but like I said, you can get it in podcast form. But I have time to tell you, tomorrow's show is going to be a doozy too. Andy McNamara, our fantasy football expert, who actually hit on a few of his picks last week here on the show. I won some money taking his picks, so he'll do that tomorrow, or Friday, pardon me. Also, James Gallo, voice of the Moose Jaw Warriors, in his 25th year being a part of the Warriors broadcast, either as a host, color man, play-by-play guy. I'm going to ask him his top 5 players plus a goalie that he has seen as a Warriors broadcaster. That'll be interesting. I'll just throw that one at him. Hopefully he isn't watching this episode and prepping. Well, I want him to watch, but you know what I mean. I want everybody to watch or listen or consume it. So we got Gallo as well joining us. We're also going to be joined by, hold on a second here. I got to look this up. I'm trying to do it off the top of my head. Miles Brown of the Saskatchewan Roughriders. You great people here that follow Ballsy Uncut help raise $1,700 for Brown. We're going to give that money to him next week. We're going to talk to him on Friday about the game against Ottawa, and I'm sure he'll have a couple of kind words for the folks out there as we raise the money for him. And also, we're going to hear from Bo Lacombo, BC Lions linebacker, teeing up that Leo's Hamilton game and get his thoughts on his brother Nelson's play with the Rough Riders. Want to thank all the great sponsors that help pull this show off on a thrice a week basis. Ward Tire Craft, District Brewing, AGT Foods Canada, Paul Waldo over at Royal LePage, and Gerhardt Studios, Nicole, and my buddy Dean. They're both my buddies. We have a little inside joke. I ask them, what's going on? So what's going on? What can you tell me? And I don't fucking know. Little inside joke, but they do know what they're doing. And they've just added my buddy Eric Cox as an employee. So I can't wait to see what he can bring to Gerhardt Studios. They do wedding photography too. Not something I'm in the market for just yet. Anyway, that is going to do it for my time. We will talk to you on Friday.